I kind of want to touch on like, is OFM still worth it? We're coming in close to 2026. I think OFM has been kind of popular since 2020. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes. Markets have gotten a lot more difficult, right, to just make money in, like generally speaking. I mean, when I retrospectively analyze 2, 3 years ago, there were people doing 600 to 1,000 paid subs a day from just a few Tinder accounts. And now 1,000 to 2,000 Tinder accounts will only yield you, maybe 20 to 30 paid subs. Like the entire market is starting to get to the point where, like the gray hat market in general, is starting to get to the point where like your input is no longer like it's getting close to where like your input's not even worth your output anymore. I think there's a few marketing acquisitions that we still run today that still are technically worth the input and output to some degree. But what does that look like for future? Is it still the best option? I guess is the question. It's like OFM for a long time was like the best option because it was the easiest business model in the entire world to make a bunch of money on. And I think to some degree that is still the truth. I think there's better options out there. Actually, I know there's a lot of better options out there. We capitalize on them. But what I can say is OFM does have its PowerPoint. I can say that is 0 to 10K a month is by far the easiest business model in the entire world to get from 0 to 10K a month, especially if you have somebody like my guidance, right? I can take anybody from 0 to 10K a month with like a breath, right? It is easy. You touch the cloth on my body and you're at 10K a month. That is the easiest thing in the world. Let's pretend we put our time, effort, resources, and energies into a unit metric. Getting from 0 to 10K a month units would be about 0 units. Like it's very, very, very easy. No skills, no experience, no fundamental understanding of anything. You can get to it. But then that's also like the other problem with their business model. And I hope I remember to come back to it. I typically just go on tangents and whatnot. But anyway, so then going from 0 to 100K a month in units, I'd say is probably like 3 to 5 units of time, effort, resources, energy, etc. Then if you want to go from 100K a month to 250K a month, your units now multiply from like 5 to 7 upwards of like 14 to 20, right? It exponentially grows. I mean, when I look at any of the accounts or scaling that we ever did, the maximum we were ever able to get to was 250K on one page. It's pretty good. It's very impressive. And could we have scaled more? Completely, absolutely. The issue was scaling impossible. It was just my input no longer made sense for my output, okay? For an example, when we were running like Mass DM, we were hitting every single person probably in the United States with our creators to the point where my creator would go obsolete after like 30 to 60 days because we would do 1,000 to 2,000 paid subs every single day. We were hammering out 5 to 10 million DMs a day. And so hammering out that many DMs, you end up covering the entire United States, all of India, most of the Instagram platform, you start hammering them. And then you just start competing with yourself. It doesn't mean that you can't rerun advertisements with like a new copy, a new strategy, a new whatever, but it does absolutely mean that you start competing with yourself because you're hitting so many people all at once. It was to the point where my creator was starting to get recognized at like Whole Foods because we were hammering so many people. She didn't even have a social media platform. She doesn't even have an Instagram. She doesn't have a Twitter. She doesn't have anything, but she was still being recognized because of how badly we were hammering the world with like Mass DM, for an example. And so the question is like, is your input still worth the output? And I think yes. Is it the best option in the world? I don't think no, but I do think it is still one of the easiest ways to make like 0 to 100K a month. I really do. But there is a massive ceiling in which you start competing with yourself at like the 250K mark, or you need to come up with such creative, unique mechanism-based marketing channels that the input no longer is the output. Like for an example, Skylar May, she's doing about $1 million a month right now on her page. But how they have this structured, they're doing like over like $500,000 or $600,000 a month in ad spend across all of these different affiliates. Okay, so you have like all of these people that are agency based, and their entire strategy for scaling her page is reaching out, pretending like they have a chance to work with her if they can start pushing some traffic. But that's the gig, is you're never going to work with her. She has a management, but pretty much in the hopes of, you get what I mean? And then they get a 30% referral or kickback on their tracking link. This is a great marketing channel, great marketing strategy. But alongside that, it's loads of paid advertisements. Your margins are really small on like I said, a free product, because you got to look at, like, the agency is making some money from this. So let's say the agency gets 30%. Let's say they have an overhead of like whatever the number was that I was told, like $400,000-$600,000 a month in expenses on $1 million a month account, and then 30% of all the tracking links are going to affiliates. But by the end of that, I mean, on $1 million, that's not really worth it, right? So you can scale these numbers really, really, really high. There's no question about that. The doctor guy on the Cupid bot, who's doing like a couple 100,000 subs a week, fucking insane, is reaching out to some of our licensing members, letting them know, like, Snapchat his margins are too low, it's not worth it. So I'm not saying the number itself is easy to get to, right? But the input to getting to that number does no longer make sense. The amount of effort, time, resources, the units no longer make sense, because this is your output. There's a ceiling where you either start competing with yourself, or the resources become so heavy that it no longer makes sense unless you have a really, really pretty hefty staff that is able to manage it. But most of the time, and most of you guys start all of these marketing acquisitions completely by yourself. And so when you start all these marketing acquisitions by yourself, the fixes to them when they break aren't actually technical fixes. They're market experience or wisdom within the operation. Like some of you Tinder guys, for an example, you can't really put somebody in your place to run your Tinder operation that you've been running for 2 years, because you only know how to fix Tinder because of your experience that you've had with it since it was here, and here it is now. It's been this incline, right? Or I guess technically a decline, that you've experienced every fix, every break, from going from regular iPhones to jailbroken iPhones, from desktop, like all of these different strategies. And so you understand what the fixes are and when something is not fixable. So then you need to completely rotate to a new method that only you understand, right? So you can't scale that. But I mean, that's also like just a personal constraint that some of these guys have. But the point that I'm trying to make is follow, for an example, is a great operation to scale from like 0 to 50, 0 to 100 grand a month. Past 100 grand a month, you're now managing, well over a few thousand accounts. Okay, management of a few thousand accounts is very difficult. I know it doesn't sound like it's that difficult, because like to you guys, you just look at the Airtable and it says 1,000 records. You got to understand that there are staff behind 1,000 accounts that are opening these accounts, doing specific actions, closing them, marking the thing, going to the next one, going to the next one, going to the next one. You gotta understand, like, that the mental drain on managing 2,000 accounts between X amount of VAs is heavy, okay? They start getting a little sloppy. They accidentally move something into the wrong table. It fucks the entire thing up, because they're thinking they're doing something, but they're not actually doing it correctly. You don't really have a fundamental way of tracking this outside of like Airtable interfaces and snapshots to like know exactly how many people are being followed. Are the VAs actually making sure that whatever's they're supposed to be doing is actually being done? You can't really see that outside of getting a video report every morning of like what they're doing before they start, or like the first account, so you understand like the phone setup is correctly, everything is done correctly. Like it starts to get very hefty. 0 to 100, 200, maybe 500 Instagram accounts, relatively easy to manage. And then this can do $50,000 to $100,000 a month. 1,000 to 5,000 accounts to do like 250 plus is a lot of accounts, and it is a very difficult task to execute. You start competing with each other. You need more resources faster, right? You're burning more Instagram accounts faster, which means those need to be constantly be replaced. And so let's say you're burning 30% of your accounts a week. You need 300 accounts being set up every single week. Who's buying those accounts? How do you know that they're healthy? What if they're not good accounts and all of them get smoked? What's your backup plan, right? On 100 accounts is a super easy operation, because you can backload inventory of 1,000 accounts. You get what I mean? You can't do that when you're doing 1,000 accounts and you're churning through. It's just that scale then becomes 10,000 accounts. Okay, of inventory. But where are you gonna buy 10,000 accounts? And we have the answer. We are able to do it. But at the same time, is all of that worth $250K a month? Not really. It's really not. Just because like there are other business models, a lot of other business models that we run internally that make us a lot more money for the less input. That's like the topic of the video. Is like, is OFM still the best option? And I think yes, it's one of the best options to go from 0 to 100K a month. But then if you wanna make more than 100K a month, you wanna make 150, 250, 500, $1 million a month, you're not gonna make $1 million a month. You get what I mean? Like you're not going to make $1 million a month from OFM unless you get thrown a really big gold nugget like Lil Tay wants to release her OF with you under management. I mean, and that's not a business model that I don't love that about it, because I don't like the fact that the bottleneck is like an income number because of input and output. So there are some things that you can do, right? You can take more fundamental marketing acquisitions and you can scale it, and you can use automations and you can do this, and this. But one thing you do need to like look at and in big picture is like nobody's doing $1 million a month. And to me, that seems like a problem within an industry. There's not many industries where that's a thing, because you guys gotta understand first and foremost that OFM is underneath an umbrella of make money. And then underneath make money is make money online. And then underneath make money online, this one would fall under digital products. Okay, so like other people in other industries in the same digital product realm are doing $1 million a month, $10 million a month, $100 million a year. These massive numbers that you cannot achieve in the subsect of like being OFM. So it's like, is it the best option? I'm going to say right now, yes. One of the best options for 0 to 100K a month. Best option to go from 0 to $1 million a month? Hell no, not even close to it. And so I think one of the things that you need to look at is once you start scaling and you get to that $50,000 a month mark, I want you to start being cognitively aware of like, what's my input? What was my input then? What's my input now? Is it worth continuing to pursue? And you gotta understand that decline is so incredibly slow that most people don't even see it happen. They don't even realize it. Like those people that were doing, 2 or 3 Tinder accounts to do a few thousand paid subs started to get a little bit more difficult. So they needed 30 accounts, but they would still do the 1,000 subs, right? And then started to get a little bit more difficult. So now they need 100 accounts, still doing the 1,000 paid subs. Now they need 200 accounts, but they're doing 800, increasing accounts 500, increasing. It's so dramatically slow that you don't even see the effect. And so that's why you have some of these, I call them idiots. I don't think they're idiots. I think they're very smart. It's respectable. If you're still profitable using Tinder in today's day and age, it's a very respectable thing. Business mentality, you're an idiot, right? But like I said, you got to be in a position where you are retrospectively analyzing your input to output ratios. Otherwise, you cannot possibly scale your business past an X mark. So if you're somebody that's like, I'm making 100K a month and I want to start making 500K a month, I'd say start using this money to fund another business, like digital products or info or coaching or something else that's online underneath the same like umbrella. Because as long as you're in the same umbrella, the marketing acquisitions, as long as you use fundamental marketing acquisitions like we do, then you can transition to a ton of different business models, make more money, and then officially like leave OFM, just, you know what I mean? But anyway, I think there's also a lot of competition that's starting to come into OFM with the AI stuff, which is funny. It's not bad competition. It's just a unique mechanism to what OFM is, which is fine. That's not a big deal. But it's like you also got to be prepared. You need to make those fast shifts. And I think OF is one of those industries that shifts probably faster than most. Especially on a lot of these gray hat operations, they're shifting and twisting every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? That's not a normal thing. We run a digital product agency and we can scale creators to multiple $100,000 months and just leave the house and go on a vacation and then come back and nothing has been affected. Nothing gets affected. You know what I mean? It's a very different environment. Let me put it like that. But anyway, I got to say, if you're somebody who's making a lot of money, we can help you make a lot more money. If you're making 50K a month, we can help you make a lot more. If you're making 100K a month, we can help you make more. It's just, do you want to do OF to make a whole lot more? And most people they're like, yeah, like they don't have a problem with their input and output. Does that make sense? Most people are like, I don't mind working more to make more money. And that's also like not a big deal. How you make your money and your own mental fortitude towards it does not matter whatsoever, right? I think it's just something I wanted to make a comment on if OFM was still like the best option. And you can make a ton of money in it. You can make a ton of money in the OF space. I'm not going to deny that. I just do think that there's a bad ceiling in this business that is very difficult to break unless you're throwing a really big golden nugget. But on that, I'll stop. I'll see you guys in the next video.